All right. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, depending on where you're located. I'm in the afternoon, so I'm excited that I'm here to be with you today. So thank you for joining our webinar. We have some exciting stuff to go over and just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We've muted everybody upon entry. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, though, please add them to the Q&A section in this Teams webinar. Myself, Chloe, the Mekorma team, everybody will be monitoring them just to make sure that we get your questions addressed. But at the end of the presentation, if there's any additional questions, please make the call out. We'll make sure to get those addressed for you because we really want to make sure your questions, you have everything you need when you walk away from this presentation today. So quick introduction, I'm Colleen Schills, the Director of Customer Success here at Crestwood. And joining me for today's webinar is Joy McRae and Angel Blum from Mekorma. And Joy and Angel will be walking us through the Mekorma product and license options. That's really going to be able to support you today with your GP environment as well as in the future with Business Central. So we want to know that we're setting you up for success for the future. But before I turn the presentation over to Joy and Angel, I wanted to touch on a couple areas of all things Crestwood. This slide, you might not have seen it before, you might have seen it before, but this slide represents the values that Crestwood Associates works on every day. These are our marching orders within our organization. And I feel it's important to make you aware of the focus that we have as an organization and why we felt it that, we needed to bring Mekorma to you today to present. Mekorma is one of our longstanding partners that we've worked with in the GP community. And there's things that are, changes that are happening in the Microsoft ecosystem with GP. We wanted to make sure that you had all the information available to you. So being as transparent as we possibly can so that you have all your options of what you need for today, for tomorrow, and in the future. And so we really appreciate you joining us today. We appreciate the Mekorma team being here with us today. But how we can prepare you is to provide you with the options, right? Provide you with the options that go beyond the GP or BC product line. Crestwood has a full technology stack that we work with, so we can provide more than just ERP for you. So whether it's taking a look at what you have in GP today and moving you to the cloud with hosting options on Microsoft Azure, or helping you secure your license with M365 so that you can work with Copilot and the Power Platform. We have you covered. We have you covered on all aspects. So just another little reminder before I hand it over to Joy and Angel that, you are muted at this time. And again, if you have any questions during this presentation, please place them in the Q&A section of the Teams webinar. And thanks again for your time. And Angel, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Colleen. We really do appreciate being here today and this opportunity. You've been a great partner to us, and we really enjoy working with you. And thank you to all of you who joined today and who may be listening later. So first off, I'm going to talk about the agenda. And we're going to go through, the three key processes that Mekorma can help with in the AP automation for your AP automation solution. And then I'm going to give a real world example of a customer that we've been dealing with and working with for some time now. And they are utilizing basically all the features that we have available. So they're a really great example. Then we're not going to do a true demo, but we are going to go through each one of the products and features that we have, talk to you a little bit about that, and then even show you some screenshots where Joy will come in and talk to you about, what it looks like in your GP system. And then we will talk about moving to subscription. There's some discounts that you can capture this year if you want to add some functionality and go ahead and move over. And then we'll talk about Business Central. So As you may or may not know, Mekorma has been building out all of our functionality that we have on the GP side onto the BC side to make that transition as smooth and easy for our customers as we can. So we'll go through that a little bit. And then lastly, talk about, what you need to know about implementation, next steps to move forward. Okay. So, 3 key processes that Mekorma can help with. First of all, Mekorma can offer a totally end-to-end solution, starting with invoice processing. Some of you may be needing something more robust, like a document management system, but others just need a way to really manage their invoices and get them into their GP system, and that's really what we're here for. So with the invoice processing and approval, we give you a lightweight solution that will pull in your images and your invoices into GP for a review process. And then using the GP workflow, you can send those invoices for approval. We also have an app that works with that we'll show you. So your invoice approvers can review and approve, and then you can post your invoices in, all with imaging. So you have those images all the way through the whole process. Then for the payment hub, the payment management, many of you are, of course, you're already using Mekorma to print your checks, but you may or may not be aware of the approval process that we offer, some additional features that we'll go through. All along the way, we want to talk about compliance, compliance with approvals, compliance with just making sure that your vendor information is accurate. Vendor validation is a new feature that we're offering that we'll dive into, let you know about. And then lastly, what you're using today for your payments, to actually print your payments out, your Micker technology, all of that's built into the payment hub, getting those payments out the door. But we do also have a third-party solution where you can easily and simply send your vendor payments off to be processed to really ease a lot of that manual work that you're doing today, all while also keeping the capabilities of being able to print in-house checks with Mekorma. All right. So next up is that real world success story. I want to talk to you about a company we've been doing business with called HavTech. They are a leader in the AVHC equipment manufacturing space. They came to us several years ago with a very manual process. Their team was running up to 30 check batches per week, which included mailing out around 250 checks in any given batch. It was, again, highly manual, highly repetitious. It was a lot for them to handle, lots of button clicks in Dynamics GP. This was also happening right around the time of COVID. So they had a lot of issues dealing with all of that, having people have to still come into the office to get those checks out the door, running into even more issues with their approval process because their owners were not in the office. Of course, even on a regular basis, they weren't in the office, and then it was causing a lot of payment delays. So we were able to simplify their approval process and really handle a lot of those nightmares that they were running into. So with Mekorma, we were able to streamline all their steps using our action board. We eliminated about 12 hours a month of time that they were dealing with these batches. We freed up their team to be able to focus on more strategic payables tasks in their organization and really get some great value out of that. This is one of the customers that actually implemented remote payment services. So from a purely financial aspect, the rebates that program is providing pays for itself and generates rebate payment back to them. The hassle of all of those manual checks is off their plate. They were sending out 100% checks. And now the third-party provider is sending checks on their behalf, but the amount of vendors that are receiving checks is only about 41% at this point. The rest of the vendors now have options to do ACH or virtual credit card, which is what's giving them those rebates. And none of that has to be handled for them in-house. The third-party provider is taking on all that responsibility and really easing the load for them. We have a lot of clients like this that are utilizing different features. This one just happens to be utilizing them all and really streamline their process from end to end. All right, so now we're going to dive into kind of a lot of the newer features or the individual features. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Joy for those screenshots. So vendor validation really does start the process, but it's one of our newest features. We have set it up within your GP system to where when you're entering a new vendor, we will automatically check against the government website to make sure that that TIN number that the vendor has given to you and you've entered is matching. So we're going to do that check that you would have to do manually. We're also going to check against the IRS website's Office of Foreign Asset Affairs. There is a list of vendors out there in the world that are not sanctioned by the government. And if you're found to be doing business with them, there can be some very steep fines that the government will place on your company. And it is a government requirement that you do check this list. So whether you are doing business outside the US or not, it's a safety measure to make sure to go ahead and check that, and we will be doing that for you automatically. Also, we check the address that you're entering for that vendor through the Google search to make sure that that is a valid address. And all of this is very important. It saves you a whole process in your AP, but also if you are a company that is doing a lot of 1099s, you're at the end of the year, you need to deal with those W-2s. Doing this check and making sure that everything is valid is going to save you a lot of time and energy. And there's fines on that end too if you're sending out information that's not correct. So you can do this, set it up to where it's going to check every time you enter a vendor, and then you can run a bulk process at the end of the year. So I'm going to turn it over to Joy, and she's going to talk about what those screens really look like.
Okay, thanks, Angel. So as she mentioned, we've got the bulk validation feature for, especially when you're getting started and implementing it from the very beginning. You can take a group of vendors and validate them from this screen. So it allows you to bring back that information in a way that you can digest it, and allows you to correct anything. You can dump that to a report and then use that into your vendor card, go into your vendor card and GP and correct the information. A lot of times, the validated address may come back as a warning. It could just be that you have just a minor piece of it not typed all the way out, like street or something, but it may be something that you need to address. So in this process, when we're doing vendor validations, it is, especially for anybody who is heavy 1099s, it's going to help you with getting those 1099s to the correct address. So the next piece of that is when we go through and we've got them already kind of validated, and now I'm just kind of maintaining, and I've added a new vendor. As I add a new vendor, I can just add that to my process. It's at the vendor card. We have a little vendor validation button. I can show you that in a live demo if you guys are interested at a later date. And it brings back the information and provides you with any history as well. We have a validation history screen that gives you when you corrected it, so that you have that information to provide to any auditor as well. So that vendor validation feature is new, and it is it's become very successful for a lot of people.
Thanks, Joy. Okay, so let's move to the next feature, which is actually not a feature. This is a product. So we're going to talk about invoice processing. So many of you have already using Mekorma may not be aware that we have this invoice process. We talked a little bit about in the beginning as a starting step. If you don't need something like a fully robust document management system, invoice capture can pull in your invoice information into a dedicated window. So we're going to read it from a dedicated inbox. We're going to capture that information. We're going to pull in the image, give you a window to review that information from, and then it will automatically create the transaction entry for you. You can send it for approval so that invoice can be reviewed by whoever purchased the product. We have a lightweight mobile workflow, so your approvers can review and approve from an app or from a web browser. They don't have to get into Dynamics GP. So they can review that information, send the approvals back, and then you can post your invoices in, and you've got your transaction entries ready to go for the next step. But before we move on to those next steps, I'm going to turn it back over to, well, nope, I've got one more slide to show you to kind of talk about how this works. So receiving your invoices, have those vendors send it into this dedicated inbox with the invoices attached. It will save it into a project folder. The AI is going to extract all that data, bring it into Dynamics GP. And then your staff is going to validate from a window we're going to show you here in a couple minutes. You have to do the GP approvals and then post those invoices in, and you're ready for payment. So now Joy is going to talk a little bit more about those screens.
Excellent. Okay, so one of the things that Mekorma is really, really good at is we are embedding into your system. So this window is developed by Mekorma and it's right in GP. You will pull that window up, and what it's doing is reading anything that went into that designated AP inbox and bringing it over here. So as we see here, you can put that into a batch at that time, or we can just do it as a single transaction. We have a warning. That little yellow triangle is a warning. And what that is it's reading some of GP's technology of duplicate invoices. So it wants you to make sure that that's not a duplicate. There's a couple other warnings that can come up that it's, again, just using that GP technology through our feature. As we go through, we right click on each one of these. So now as the AP person, I sit down, I have my cup of coffee, and I look at my list for the day of what I'm going to process. And I can right click on that invoice capture validation screen. It's going to bring up my process window. So that little window right here, let's see if I can, right there. And it is going to bring up my invoice next to it so that I can validate that information is correct. And as I'm validating, I can hit that process button on that window, and it's going to take me to this window, which is our payables transaction entry screen. It automatically puts that information in and attaches that document to that transaction. And you had the only thing that as the user did was hit process. Now, if you want to use our mobile workflow to approve the invoices after they've been entered, if they're not approved before, you can turn on GP workflow and hit submit, and it takes you straight to a screen like this. And this screen is going to be, you can use that from your phone, from your tablet, or you can have it look like this on your computer. It allows you to drill back into each of these invoices as the approver. So if I was Ryan and GP and I submitted it over to Debbie, Debbie's now looking at that invoice and the information in GP that it's been put in, can look at the account that it's been put into, and drill back into that invoice and the email. So you can't see that from this particular window, but in a live demo, I can show you how you drill back in, and then Debbie's allowed to approve or reject and leave notes. So in that invoice processing piece, we're allowed to send the approver or the processor notes. And so if there is a rejection for some sort of reason, maybe we just have a dispute and you need to talk about it before you pay it and it gets approved, you can do that from that screen.
All right, great. So that is the invoice processing, and now we're going to move to the payment hub and how we can automate the process of batch creation. So you've gone through an invoice approval, getting those into the system. Your images of your invoices are there. Your transaction entries have been created for you. You've gone through an approval process. All of that's been taken care of. And now the AP clerk needs to be batching all of those vouchers, probably on a weekly basis, but however it works for you. And we have something called the action board and power approvals for the payment side of things. So the action board is one unified window where you can set up criteria for how you want your batches to be created, and then one click, it can do that. Now, this can happen in one single database. It can happen across databases, multiple checkbooks, multiple different list of criteria, however works best for your company. We'll show you some screenshots to better illustrate that. But from this one window, you're going to batch create, process, send out for approvals. Then we have the power approvals, which is again a lightweight approval process, an app where your payment approvers can just view on their computer or on their phone. Same type of deal. They can drill in, review the payments that are in that batch, approve or reject. That comes back to the AP clerk, and from that same window, you can continue to process. So this is what's saving people up to 70% of the time they're spending today. And it's also making the AP process very smooth and unified. A lot of companies are dealing with the manual tasks that someone has been doing for 20 plus years, and they know what they're doing. They've been doing it forever. But imagine them not being there anymore. You need someone else to cover what they're doing and quickly pick up where they left off. If you had an AP process with the action board and everything set forth for you, it would be very easy for someone to take over that position and do the work without learning a lot of manual steps. So Joy is going to take back over and talk to you about what this looks like.
Okay, so as Angel mentioned, there are a lot of steps to the AP process, and being able to keep them in one centralized location seems to make people's lives much easier, especially if you have any turnover or even if someone wants to retire, such as me in the future. And so therefore, it would just allow them to take over that position much easier. So this action board feature has been around in our payment hub for a few years. And what you can do here is you can build your payment batches and process them all the way through, right? So you can see the whole list of options that we have. But what we're going to do is from here, you can see that I've got 3 different companies, and I've got different checkbooks that I'm processing out of, and I'm processing checks and EFTs. So all at the same time, it's going to batch them together. So, well, not together, but it's going to batch them at the same time. And so how that's set up, it's driven by our build IDs. So if you see this window, we've got a process ID called end of the week. And end of the week has my build IDs that are developed in there, which are your criteria for what you are going to pay. So if your criteria is anything that's due in 7 days, then you want to pull it into a batch automatically every week. Or maybe it may be that you can see I have utilities. I never want my utilities to get shut off. So I use vendor class. You can use different criteria such as payment priority or vendor ID. There's a whole list of them that we can discuss in detail in a demo. So here is our action board where we are building that payment batch. And it, again, allows you to build them, and it's going to bring back anything that's due in that criteria that I've developed. So I think my next screenshot might be a report. Yes. Okay. So here's my report results. And you can see that in like a minute and 50 seconds, I was able across 3 different companies to build 12 different batches, and 3 of them were removed because there was nothing that was due in that criteria that I had spun up. So therefore, we are able to now go to those batches. I can edit them if I need to, or I can just go ahead and do the next step and submit them off for approval. If we use Mekorma's lightweight power approval, it looks very similar. This is what it looks like from your computer. You can have that again on your phone. It looks very similar to our mobile approvals. And what you can do is you can filter by batches, you can filter by companies, you can filter by vendors to make sure that your payments are going out the door, the ones that you want to make sure are going. And in this, I'm able to drill back into each one of those payments and see what is listed as the invoices that are getting paid. If you're using our invoice processing piece, it will have a little paper clip that will allow you to drill back into that actual invoice and see it, so that when it's almost as if you're going from back when I was doing AP, where I handed a stack of invoices with the checks, attached to them. That's what this is doing, but electronically. So whoever's approving these, they're able to do that at that time. All right. Then the action board goes through these processes. As they got approved, now I could process those checks. I can go ahead and post them and generate the EFTs in the Safe Pay file, all from the one window. It also allows you, it saves a copy of the check automatically when you process those using Mekorma's features and in a folder that you designate. And then last but not least, being able to send that Safe Pay file off, it generates that for you.
All right. Thank you, Joy. So last but certainly not least is a new product feature that we have in the Payment Hub. This would be available to anyone in all 3 of our subscriptions. It's our remote payment services. And this is what HabTech was utilizing to kind of offload all of their manual process at the end of stuffing, 250 checks plus in a week and getting those out the door manually. We have everything set up and embedded into the GP system, where in that process that you saw just a minute ago, there was an actual step of processing checks and EFTs or generating the file for the remote payment services. So the file is generated with all your payments sent over to the third-party provider, and they cut the checks, send the ACHs or virtual credit cards based on your vendor's preferences. So they're going to maintain vendor information for you. They're going to maintain payment information for you. If you're someone who's been primarily doing in-house checks, but you're wanting to offer EFTs to your vendors, but you know that that is a very manual process as well, and a lot of responsibility to ensure that you're keeping up with their account information properly in your own system and securing that. This allows you to offer those services or those payment types without taking on all of that workload and responsibility. So at the same time, there may still be checks that you want to process in-house and can do that with Mekorma. So you have your in-house processing and then offloading the bulk of your invoices to a third-party provider. And we can show you this. I'm going to turn it over to Joy, and she's going to show you really how simple it is. It's literally one click and your payments are going to go over there.
She's right. So as you can see here with the screen, basically when I went to hit print checks on my GP, it brings up this screen and it sends that information electronically. You don't have to download, upload anything. It does it itself. And from our action board, you can report back and see where it's at with that update remote payment service window. So I know there was one that I didn't talk about, and this is the line right here, update that payment status. This is where it's going to bring that information back and say it was successful, or maybe it was not, and you need to go fix something. But in that remote payment service piece, I do have to say that all the while you're maintaining your information here in GP, it is taking away all of that tedious work that you don't want to do anymore. Stuffing those checks and having them signed and getting the envelopes ready and stamping them and getting them to the mail. So it's going to alleviate all of that hard stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Joy, that all the reconciliation and all the information is still staying in your GP system. So when you go to the vendor card, you can see the payment was sent, when it was sent, an image of the the information that was sent. All of that is still staying in your GP system, and you can reconcile with your banks and your payments and all of those things. So nothing is outside of GP. Of course, you can do all the same things. All your approval stays in GP, all of that. So yeah, good point there. Okay, so next up is talking about moving to subscription. So for this year, you can choose to pay your current renewal and then next year make a decision, but there are some benefits to going ahead and moving this year. Of course, we've talked to you about some newer features that you can take advantage of, and there's the discounts that you can take advantage of, but you need to think about what are the features of Mekorma that I really want to continue to use and or start utilizing when moving to a subscription. So the first tier is called our Payment Hub Starter, and that just has the most basic in-house payment process. So what you're using today to print your checks, the check formatting library, the overflow remittance, the Mekorma printing, electronic signatures, the workflow within GP, and the payment image archiving. So that is all included in our starter package. If you do want to add remote payment services, that's available. So you can do both in-house checks and remote payment services with our starter package. And then core, this is where you're getting into those additional features. So all the Mekorma technology, remote payment services. Then if you want to utilize the action board that we showed, it can be utilized in a single company. So it doesn't matter how many checkbooks you have. You can have 5 checkbooks, 10 checkbooks, 100 checkbooks in one single company database. You want to create batches for all those using the action board. You can do that processing. And then power approval. So your approvers have the ability to look and drill into all of that information from their phone or a web browser. They can quickly and easily send back the approvals. action board for your AP clerk to be able to process all that quickly. If you are still doing some payroll in-house or using Mekorma's payroll features, that's available in our core subscription. And then vendor validation that we talked about, validating those 10 numbers, the OFAC match, and then also the validating addresses. That's all included in our core subscription. Then if you are a company that is processing or has multiple company databases, so you have 5 company databases, 10 company databases, you have checkbooks in each, and you want to be able to do what we were showing you with the action board earlier, where one button click, you've got all your criteria set up, and it will go across your company databases, look at the criteria that you're needing for your batch building, and create them all at one time. It eliminates a lot of clicks and just logging in and out. One thing to say about Power Approvals too is also for your approvers, it is cross-company. So your approvers from the app can see all of the different companies that they can drill into and see the batches that need to be approved. So cross-company functionality there. So if you have cross-company processing, the shared services tier is the one that you're needing. A lot of those companies also utilize something called binary stream. We have additional features that relate to binary stream. So entity information can be utilized for your batch building using the action board. Those entity information or fields can also be pulled onto your check stubs. So if you're wanting to report that information back to your vendors so they can easily identify where that payment's coming from, those features and functionality are in the shared services tier. So again, you don't have to have binary stream, but if you have multi-companies, multi-entities that you're working with in GP and want that action board functionality and all the rest of the features that we talked about, then shared services. And then invoice capture that we showed you in the beginning, which is a separate product that's listed here. You can purchase that and work alongside with the payment hub to give you a full end-to-end process. All right, so as mentioned, there's some discounts to take advantage of this year if you want to go ahead and move over to a subscription. If you're moving over to a core subscription, that's a $500 discount for the first year. If you're moving to shared services, then that's a $1,000 discount for this year. If you, with your current subscription, let's say you're not due to pay until November, but if you want to start talking about it now, looking at what additional features you want to add, you're interested in going to our core subscription or shared services, we'll give you credit for any months unused on your current maintenance plan along with these discounts. So it's very easy for you just to go ahead and move over to a subscription and capture some of that, those discounts now. So you can talk to Crestwood about what you're interested in. We can set up a live demo. Joy can walk you through those steps in real time, show you some more details about what it looks like in GP, and then we can get you moved over. So I also do want to talk about Business Central. So one of Mekorma's big initiatives this year is to make sure that all of our customers have an easy, streamlined way to move what they're doing today in GP with Mekorma over to Business Central. So we are building out our functionality on that side. As you can see, we have the same payment or subscription tiers, same kind of deal. So the starter package has the Mekorma technology with remote payment services. Core has those additional features. The action board's over there on Business Central as well. Vendor validation is over there. Shared services, if you're dealing with multiple company databases or you have the MEM connector and you're wanting to continue to utilize it, we're building all these things out on BC. We're also, once you move to a subscription with us, you can have concurrent keys. So you're using your GP today, you have that subscription, we will give you the keys for Business Central as well. You can use them both for the time of your transition and then just continue on the Business Central side. So trying really hard to make sure that our clients can have an easy transition in that way. If you are planning to move to Business Central in the next couple of years, but you still want to get things started on the GP side, like implementing remote payment services and easing your AP process with the action board. Of course, it's going to look and feel slightly different on the Business Central side. It's not the same ERP, but all of the same processes can be utilized, and it really can streamline and make your process so much more efficient by utilizing some of these extra features. All right. Another thing I want to mention on the Business Central side of things is we are not building out our own invoice capture on that side, but we have done our research and looked into who on the Business Central side really meets the needs of our clients. So we're partnering with several different companies. One we want to mention is SignUp Software. So they have a full invoice capture process on the Business Central side. And we work really well with them, and this kind of just shows the flow of that. So implementing Mekorma on Business Central, you get that vendor validation and make sure your vendor's information is all accurate in your system. Then SignUp takes over. You'd have the invoice capture capabilities, importing and validating in your BC system, making sure that those invoices are matching up and getting approved, and then posting your invoices in. Then it flows right back into Mekorma Payment Hub, where we're going to build those batches for you with the action board. We're going to have an approval process for you. And then sending your payments, whether that be with remote payment services or you're doing in-house checks and EFTs, just using the Miker technology and approvals that we have set up for you. So something to think about. If you're wanting a truly end-to-end process, we can help you both on the GP and the BC side. All right. So what are the takeaways for you today? Well, moving to subscription is the big one. What tier met the most of your needs? What additional features would you like to add? Would you like to capture any of those discounts this year? So think about that. Think about what's going to be best for you moving forward. We can help get a meeting set up. You can talk to your specific customer success manager about setting up meetings, doing demos, talking about this a little bit more. Are you thinking about moving to Business Central and you want to see what that looks like? We can certainly do a demo in that way as well. So definitely reach out to your customer success manager to discuss that more. And we are happy to have those conversations. All right. Well, now we've reached the time where we're here to just answer questions. So I don't know if anybody has put anything in the chat, but if not, please do. Or we can probably just open it up to where you can ask your questions live if you feel comfortable with that as well.
Yeah, I didn't see any questions in the Q&A, Angel, so we'll hold off for maybe a minute and see if anybody adds anything, but really do appreciate you enjoy being part of this webinar and presenting to our client base their options. And I think there was some really great content. I know that both Nick and Julie will be following up with their clients, from a Crestwood perspective to make sure that, we're setting everybody up for success. That was the whole objective of this webinar. So really appreciate and
yes, thank you so much. Appreciate that too. We're grateful to be here with you today and working with your clients. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like there's any questions coming through. So I think everybody's still absorbing it, but we'll make sure to reach out and follow up and bring you in any discussion that we need to. And again, really appreciate you guys presenting with us today, and appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to attend this webinar, and look forward to connecting with you in the future, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.